And so as I was getting to checkout, I went back and got
another potato.
potato and put that one in the cart so that the checkout person wouldn't think I was a pathetic creature who was alone and who didn't have someone to have a second baked potato with.
Hello and welcome back to Silver and Sensational. I'm your soon-to-be Silver host, Jessica Lynn Verdi, working on my sensationalism. But with me, as always, is your host, Lois Mills.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. And I know I always say, it is I, but today I'm going to say, hey, it's me. It's Lois, eager to reach out to you. And Jessica, what have we got today?
Well, Lois, actually, we have just gotten so many warm welcomes and people being excited in our email and our comments when we've returned. So clearly what we're offering with this show is something people have been looking for, which is, some real talk, from someone who's really gone through it. And so I think that's awesome.
And who's going to say it the way it really is? Yes.
And we all do need that friend. And, sometimes we don't want to keep that friend, but it comes from you in a very special and loving way. So we've gotten a lot of positive feedback about that. And today, I think this is going to be an interesting one because sooner or later, we're all going to find ourselves in a position where we are alone, where just life has put us in this alone situation. And as we get into it, you're going to distinguish the difference between choosing to be alone and circumstantially becoming alone. And I know if you listen to our first episode, we talked a lot about how what you went through as a kid either prepared you to be or made it so that you were alone a lot in life. And so
Absolutely.
This is going to be a really interesting episode. And when we shared on Facebook and Instagram that this was our topic this week, you want to make sure you're following us on Instagram and Facebook at Silver and Sensational. You can hear about what the topic is going to be the Monday before this episode airs. And that way you can send in your questions. And we did get a question. Actually, we got several questions. And I chose this one because I thought it was teeter-tottering right on exactly what we were hitting on today.
So let me
It's
hear.
from Jeannie L. And she says, "Hi, Lo. I'm loving the show."
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing so much of yourself with us. I decided to reach out when I saw this episode's topic because for as much as I feel like I have a handle on my current situation, I know that isn't completely true. My husband and I are getting a divorce. He told me I could stay in our apartment until our lease is up, which won't be for another few months. We are splitting custody of our dog Rory, who we got together. So even though I'm living alone, it doesn't really feel like it because I see him twice a week. And this place is also full of memories we made together, good and bad. I'm wondering if I should continue to live alone once I have to move out of this apartment, or if it would be better for me to get a roommate in a new place to help me with transition. Don't get me started on the feelings of being an over 40-year-old woman considering having a roommate. Looking forward to your thoughts. Sincerely, Lonely in Limbo.
Well, firstly, I'm sorry that you are getting divorced, and I am also sorry that you need to upend your living arrangements, but it seems that you're okay with that part. I think the part you're thinking of is getting a roommate, and that's hard for me to answer for you. It doesn't have anything to do with how old a person is. I think that the reason for getting a roommate should be very clear in your own mind. If it's because you need the help financially, that's a perfectly, this is not a judgment, but that's a perfectly understandable reason to get a roommate. If you're doing it because you don't want to be alone, why aren't you, and this is for you to answer, why aren't you trying to accept the challenge of living alone? Because if you're thinking of a roommate, I have to believe that you are finding that proposition a challenge. So, without knowing more details, if you're doing this because you don't want to live alone, may I then suggest that you at least make an effort to do that before you think about bringing in a roommate. I just think that everybody should have the ability to live alone. Now, if you fare well and you choose a roommate, you'll be choosing a roommate from strength and not from weakness. And isn't that where you want to be? So, Ginny, I hope that this little bit of advice gets you going. And if you need more further support, email us and I'll answer those questions. I'll keep up with you to be a support system for you.
That's such beautiful advice, actually. I love the choosing a roommate from strength. And
Yes.
I think this is what we're going to go through today are the different ways we find ourselves being alone. And I think there's a lot of shame wrapped up in that too. I mean, just even with her signing off saying, she seems like she's judging herself for potentially considering a roommate at 40, that's a lot of.
She's listening to too many people.
She should only listen to Lois.
No, I'm not saying that. But, she's getting a lot of opinions.
Yeah. Interesting.
On something that, is really her decision. Now, it's great to get people's opinions, of course. But the ultimate end decision is yours. And, when you ask someone's opinion, it's a lot of burden because you have to consider, where is that person coming from? Why are they saying this? They may have their own shtick, and now they're putting their shtick on top of your shtick. I mean, do you really need this? So I think when it comes, it's unfortunate that she is moving so quickly, because one of the things I really believe in is not making any life-altering decisions for at least 6 months to a year after you find you're being alone.
Oh, wow.
But if we can sort of get started out, today it's, being, having to be alone, is it your choice, or do circumstances, are circumstances creating it? And so today I'm just addressing the part of living alone not being your choice.
I'm so glad that you're doing that, because I do think it's a different situation.
Oh, it's completely different. It's completely different. And there's so many variants to that. Are you going to stay in the same place? Do I need to downside? Do I have health issues? What are my financial, what does my financial situation dictate? So there's a lot of variance to consider. But first and foremost, before the practical part of this, is, again, mind over matter. And, attitude and your state of mind can determine whether this is a good experience or a not so good experience. So before, you can dig your heels in and let the anger take over and piss and moan about, having to do this, and you resent it, and perhaps your husband left you, or your husband, either by his choice or by a greater power, he's no longer here at all. Point being is that these are pretty traumatic, and they're not pretty. They are very traumatic times in one's life. So if you can possibly hold off making any decision for 6 months to a year, I strongly advise doing that. And then during that time, please try to look at this as an opportunity to create the life you want. And of course, then we get to I don't know what I want, which many people, and listen, we've all been in that boat where I don't know what I want, but at least know that this is a wonderful challenge for you to conquer, that it is an opportunity to do lots of things that you weren't able to do before. I mean, my God, you have total control of the remote. You can.
There's something nice about that.
There is. You don't have to listen to if you're not a football fan, you don't have to listen to the whir of the crowds on Sunday afternoons in the background.
Oh my God.
You can spend the money the way you want it. You don't have to ask if you can get a new bedspread, or you don't have to get a bedspread that isn't quite so feminine. For me, it was I could eat cereal at dinner. I didn't have to think about making a meal. I could have cereal. I could eat a banana. I don't have somebody or somebody that I had to account to. I could come and go as I please. Now, I will say this because even though I've lived most of my life alone, when I was married to my second husband, I was with somebody for 16 years. So adjusting down to that is I'll talk about that, but living alone as a woman can be empowering and liberating. So try to, at least until you get used to actually living alone, try to keep that in mind, that this is a great time to create the life that you want. So, use this time to get used to living as a one in a world of twos. And
it seems like when you are alone, or when you've had a traumatic situation, or you've lost, like I'm going through a loss of a pet right now. It seems like all you see is someone walking their beautiful animal, or you're looking at a cup. Everywhere there are couples.
Everywhere there are couples. Suddenly there is not another single in the world. They are all couples.
And only your couple friends want to do things with you. And yeah, it's amazing.
And they don't really want to do things with you anymore. I mean, I'm going to call a spade a spade. If you are widowed, generally speaking, your husband's friends may ask you to dinner once.
Oh.
Once.
Interesting.
And then not so much after that. And if you are divorced, ain't gonna happen at all. So get it in your head. Don't be sitting around pissing and moaning that,
God, that's funny.
Where are all these friends? It's a fact of life, ladies. It's a fact of life. I remember when my husband was leaving me, I had my foot on the windowsill, which was a low windowsill.
Yeah, you were stretching.
Looking out onto Michigan Avenue and saying to him, the reality of life is you leave and your phone will be ringing off the hook with women trying to fix you up with their daughters, godchildren, sisters, whatever, and I won't be able to get arrested. And that's really what happened.
I imagine if you walked down Michigan Avenue nude, you might have gotten some attention, but that...
Maybe a bit of attention, but he already had one wife that walked around in her nightgown throwing bricks into the hotel that he was staying.
Are you kidding me?
I kid you not, so I figured he didn't need an encore of that. But anyway,
wow.
Yeah, she broke the windows.
Amazing. That's a story for another day.
Yeah, that's a story for another time. But I'll tell you a little story of how traumatizing it was for me. So I went to the market. Now, this was well before the days of Instacart gals and all these other things. So you had to actually go to the store. And I went to the market. It was Treasure Island on the near north side. And as I started going through, I started in the produce department. And I picked up a baking potato. And I put it in the cart and I started walking through and looking at in the meat department, and suddenly I looked at that, not suddenly, I mean, I looked down at that baked potato in that little section, by the handle. And I thought, oh my God, one baking potato? One? Oh, never mind. So I kept walking through the store. And I swear to you, I believe that every person passing me by was looking in the cart and thinking, oh, look at that poor thing. She only has one potato in the cart. And then I realized I can't do this. And so as I was getting to checkout, I went back and got
another potato.
Another potato. And put that one in the cart so that the checkout person wouldn't think I was a pathetic creature who was alone and who didn't have someone to have a second baked potato with. Well, I think my day of coming into my own is when I could walk into the store and get one baking potato and not give a fiddler's hooray. Who thought what about what? That there was just one baking potato in the cart.
Lord.
Now, I must say, for those of you out there wondering why I didn't buy 3, 4, or 5, I'm the kind of person that buys produce only for 2 or 3 days.
Well, that's actually very French of you, and very you're healthier the more you do that with your groceries.
Yeah, I really don't like having. I buy produce that I could.
Because a potato's going to stay for a month, Lois. You could buy 3 potatoes and it would be fine.
I know, but I just was in the habit of just going back to the market. And if I, what if I didn't want another baked potato for a month?
And you know what? I respect it. I will say this too. Your brain, I'm sure if I was going through the trauma of being left in a divorce, I might have felt similarly. And in general, we feel like everyone has formed all these opinions. I'm embarrassed to, check out of a store with tampons and like Cheez-Its. I'm afraid of what they're going to think of me with that. But my brain would have done differently, but similarly, I would have gotten 2 potatoes so that someone thought I was going home to someone and not alone. And so that they couldn't follow me. I would that's where a lot of my paranoia comes from is, oh.
Well, it's not necessarily paranoia. I'll jump to that since you brought
I didn't mean to jump subjects, but yeah.
No. There is, and that's, I think that's for another program, is watching for your safety. And I do remember when I had moved to Palm Beach, I had this horrible situation happen with the sewer line into my shower.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And so I cooked a lot and baked a lot when I was there because that was my hobby, being that I was there alone and at that time didn't know anybody. So by the time the city came out, plumbing company came, anyway, it was 3:00 in the morning. And I remember cooking veal meatballs. And this guy comes in the house and, while he's there, he said, oh, you live alone here? And, antennae went up and I said, oh, no. My husband is back in the back of the house. Yeah, he's just up watching TV. I thought I'd take this time. So yeah, you do need to.
You can never tell anybody. Like I watch behind me when I'm driving to make sure someone hasn't followed me for 2 streets. But it's so smart that your antenna went up, and we get. Yeah, this is a whole subject for another time.
That's a whole subject for another time. And just so everybody out there knows,
you buy 2 potatoes. I think that's the moral of the story: is buy 2 potatoes whether you're
buy the 2 potatoes so no one knows you live alone for safety
or for
reasons.
Emotional reasons.
But yeah, never buy 1 potato. The world according to Jessica Lynn.
Listen, only spurred on by you. It's
so here's a few things that, we really need to be aware of and hopefully help you make the transition to living alone. And that is, learn how to cook for one.
Ooh.
Yes. And if you're not into cooking, and a lot of people aren't, but it's part of your self-care. So, make self-care and safety, personal safety. Again, we'll do that at another time. But certainly for today, let's talk about making self-care a priority. So if you're really not into cooking, try to at least eat healthily. And a couple of things I have never done, and I implore you not to do it. Do not ever eat standing up.
Interesting.
Don't eat over the sink. Don't eat standing up. One thing I have always done, and it certainly could have been from my background of being in, dinnerware business and collecting and doing tablescapes, all of that, is that I have always set the table for myself. There's a placemat, there's a napkin, there's a knife, a fork, and a spoon laid out the way you would lay it out for company. There might be a candle, there might be a posy, but there is a table setting. And I will just quickly tell you, in the old days when my husband first left me, I used to do this. And my housekeepers, at that time there were two, that they saw what I did. And one day I came home from the studio early, and I found them with each of them with the placemat and the stemware, and they had a placemat for my cat Gato on this huge, it was a huge island that we would sit at to eat, and they had a placemat for Gato as well. But I was actually very happy to see that they were doing
You
this.
influenced them.
And
That's beautiful.
yes, so I am telling you, make your eating dining, so it's dining for one. Don't be slurping the food down and, making, because it's a priority.
Let me add this too, because during the pandemic and living in a single apartment, sitting at the table was laborious. Do not eat in bed. It is.
Oh God, no!
I know
no.
it didn't even cross your mind, but it was all I did.
No, not that I haven't, because I have. But the beds for sleeping, the tables for eating, the kitchen counter is for preparing, the sink is for washing. Just keep it that way.
Brilliant, brilliant.
It just makes you feel better about yourself.
I love that.
And then if you're not already on an exercise program, start one. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's walking at a certain time, Pilates, any kind of exercise program. It's often very hard to get in the groove of doing it. I understand. I see on some of my Facebook groups, people, women over 50, asking for how do you get motivated. It's tough.
It is
I'm
tough.
not going to tell you it isn't. Once I stopped bodybuilding, I would do something for a while, something else for a while. And even now, I am trying to get back into doing Pilates, and I've had a few small, not real big injuries, but enough so that I couldn't really do it. And it's just like, can I ever get back to a routine? But whatever you do, don't give it up. Don't. Now, another thing I can suggest is install a security system. There's no, the old days are gone. You don't have to call the guy out to do all kinds of permanent things. You can have a Wi-Fi system going. If you can't, if you're in an apartment that you cannot even install that small thing at your door, at least have some interior cameras. Make sure your windows are locked. And something I did see recently that you might want to do is, those door stops, those wedges that you put in for keeping a door open. Well, when you come in, lock your door immediately and put one of those on the inside. Just try. If somebody really wants to get to you, they're going to get to you, but don't make it easy for
I
them.
find the more you preempt a problem, the less likely it is to occur, or the more prepared you are when it occurs.
Yeah. And you also don't feel like you've been a sitting duck or a fool.
Yeah.
If you've taken all the steps and somebody, scaled your wall
And really wanted to
got
get in.
They really wanted to get in. Well, what the hell? I mean, you can only do so much.
And
but
as a aside, I knew a woman who worked with the FBI, and her most important self-defense tactic was fight to the death. And a lot of people, women especially, don't win that situation because they're not willing to take the lamp and hit them in the head. And I know this is a little macabre, but hopefully this helps somebody. If you're in a situation where you're being overpowered, you grab whatever is, you fight. You have to fight. And sometimes, the fight, flight, or fright gets in our way. But that, at the very least, you got to try, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And something last year I gave my girlfriends, lady friends, I still call them
I call them girlfriends, sure.
These, they're little devices that, you have. I keep it on my keychain. I have it with me when I walk my dog. I have it, obviously all the time on my keychain, which I'm generally keep with me. But you just pull it and this outrageous noise takes place. And I just read, apparently there's been a lot of attempts to accost senior women, and somebody just warded off, an assailant because this noise scared the hell out of them and they ran away.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, so that's a good thing to have. And when I walk, I do carry my pepper spray with me.
I think just like a lot of what you're saying, even though it's kind of going back into where my paranoid brain lives, is just prepare and take that extra step.
Yeah, just be aware of what's around you now. Also, living alone at a certain point in life, you might want to think about getting one of those life alert things.
You know what, Lois? I actually think that at any stage in life, having a contingency for an emergency is not a bad thing.
I just had, I did have a watch that I never used, so that was a waste of money. And now a friend was talking about buying, the thing that you keep on your neck. And she was advising me to get it because I think she was thinking of my health. And I said, but, what about you? Why aren't you getting one? Well, I have nothing wrong with me. I said, that's not the point. I said, you could fall. You could fall, you could break a leg. You could fall, you could hit your head and for a while be unconscious. You can't get up. I remember that old commercial. I've fallen and I can't get up. Right. Well, you don't have to be that indigent. Frail.
Now, and here's the thing too. Alexa does the trick. Have an Alexa speaker in rooms, and all you have to do is have Alexa call 911 if you need to. And so yeah.
See, I do have Alexa, but it's only in one room, and I think it's actually it was one of the first Alexas it was given to me. I should look into that. I should absolutely look into that
because our phone
that's
isn't
a good
always
idea.
with us, and
if you have a smartwatch, in your outside, that works
absolutely.
But if you're in the house and you're not wearing it, so anyway, there are. I'm just saying. Think about having a contingency plan should something happen to you inside your apartment and you need help. Right. Now, another thing is do get to know your neighbors. And that's a very fine, we talked about this, that's a very fine line.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
But do get to know your neighbors to the extent that you can call them or you can knock on their door, or they advise you. I mean, unfortunately, I'm so not necessarily paranoid, but I do like to know what's going on in the neighborhood. So I don't just subscribe to Next Neighbor. I subscribe to an app called Citizen App, which picks up a lot of what people call into the police
Right,
department.
right.
So I know what's happening all
I
around.
find that's
but
a double-edged sword as well. I understand
it's
it.
very
Yes.
double-edged, boy, but it's just, again, just a thought.
I think
Now-
there's nothing wrong with knowing at times, but there is something wrong. It's a fine line between awareness and obsession with all this stuff.
Yeah. If you start to become obsessed, cancel it. But anyway, so another issue is, being single doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be lonely. So you will have to get used to things. So in the meantime, while you begin to develop having a fulfilling life living alone, try to focus on friendships. And, we talked about a lot of these things in the first season, but really focus on friendships, because you will find, more than likely, you will need to find friends who are pretty much in the same boat, who have the same kind of availability you have. And some, especially, if you're moving outside of the area that you've been living in. So do try to focus on friendships. Join new groups to find those new friends. This is a good way to find people that have the same interest as you. So classes, groups, if you find a new hobby, there are different groups for that. I've often talked about meetup.com. This is a great place to go online to see if there are people in your area that have the same interests you do, so you can meet up. And listen, they're not all going to be your cup of tea, but you don't have to sleep with all of them. This is just,
Sniffing butts.
you just need to divide up who's an acquaintance, who's a movie buddy, who's a good person, to try new restaurants with.
I find that's so helpful, Lois, is knowing that
not everybody.
They can't be.
One of the major problems I created in my one-on-one marriage relationships was that I expected my partner to be all things to me. And it wasn't until I really started living a real life alone did I realize that just isn't going to happen. It's not going to happen if your best girlfriend either. So there are people you can confide in, people who will be there at 3:00 in the morning for you. But don't expect everyone to be that,
friendships change too. And learning to accept that someone may just be there for you at 3 a.m. for a specific time in their life as well.
That's exactly right. Very astute. That's exactly right. And then, there's always volunteer work that gives you an opportunity to meet new people. So really, really focus on friendships.
I think that's wonderful. And again, it takes the focus off of yourself. And nothing like that helps you. But being able to help somebody or be there for someone or take time away really takes the eyeball off of your myopic situation.
Absolutely. And another thing to develop is to be able to rely on yourself. Ladies, please be self-sufficient. Today it's so easy. There's Google, there's YouTube. Something small happens in your house. You don't have to panic. You don't have to call your brother-in-law. You don't have to call your nephew or your kids to come and take care of things. This is a while back, my refrigerator had been collecting water underneath one of the fruit bins. And the first time I just passed it off, and then again, and I said, wait, something's not right here. So I went to Google. Water problem in my Liebherr refrigerator. It's a German refrigerator. And I saw that one of these little holes, I see this track in the back, probably plugged. So I get out a straw. The straw fits in the hole. Voila! End of problem. Now, my first thought was, oh, Jesus Christ, how much is this going to cost me? Then I have to wait for the guy who comes out to look. Then he's going to say, I need to check and get a part. I'll let you know when I can come back. Now I'm thinking of 2 days out of my life waiting for somebody. I was so thrilled that I did this. And I will often try to fix something myself. And I did that with the washing machine, but then found out that basically what was wrong with my washing machine couldn't be fixed by me. It needed a new part.
But what confidence, and also like I experience this when I'm asking someone to help me with a car or whatever. Like I have a minor amount of intelligence about the functions of a car, and I can't be sure I'm not being taken advantage of, or also being at the whim of somebody else's availability. There's nothing more frustrating than that. So at least you know that you can't do that part. You can't fix that.
You've got to know what you can and can't do, but, before you throw your hands up or start imposing yourself upon other people, see what you can do for yourself. I find, and I know this, ladies, take this in the vein that I'm giving it. I find helpless women to be such a throwback to the 50s. I can't bear it.
It's almost embarrassing for them. And I think they're embarrassed
I find
too.
it embarrassing for them, but what can I say?
And
if you go ahead.
So this funny thing happens. And when I was living alone, it was by choice. I was capable, and I killed every damn spider that came into my apartment.
Oh, I've learned, yeah.
But then one time I'm at a hotel with my boyfriend, and we'd freshly dating, and I very quickly Alex and I knew this was it. We're going to be together, And I'm actually in the middle of a recording. A black hornet comes into the 14th floor of the hotel we're staying in, the Gold Coast in Chicago, and I become a puddle and incapable of handling it because the man is here now. So it's very funny, this thing that switched for me, and I don't even have an answer for it or a reason, but all of a sudden, because he was there, he could do it now. Whereas 3 months prior, I would have been fine handling the black hornet problem. Very, very funny to me.
Yeah. No, I listen. I do recall when I first met my second husband, I had this family who, I don't know how I would have gotten through without them, because anyway, her husband said to me, now, Lo, don't show him you can even screw in the light bulb. And it came from her husband.
Wow.
Well, dumb me, I didn't follow that advice. But I don't regret it. My point being, there are other reasons the marriage ended, other
and
than
there's
my
different
being
ways
able to
to also like share the load and but not lose your autonomy. And then there's sometimes where you're like, you know what? I can't wait for him to just do that thing for me
just let him do it. Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to be the be all.
But what we're talking about is being alone, and we can do these. There's nothing better than having solved a problem.
Please, I don't want to speak too much about what you shouldn't do with your adult children, because I have never had my own children. And so I don't presume to tell any parent what to do or not do. But I think you feel at this time in your life that you really don't want to be dependent on your children, that you want your children to have independence and not feel that they have to worry
Or
about
be the
you,
parent to you now.
or be the parent to you. So please hesitate before you pick up that phone. If for some reason you need a ride, call Uber. Believe me, isn't today great? I mean, living today, yes, it's not like the good old days, but you've got food delivery services that were only known to exist in New York City. They are everywhere now. You can have groceries delivered. You could have stuff. Chewy.com gets delivered if you have, you need pet food. Everybody is delivering these days. You just don't have to live a life of pizza. In addition to that, taxis were hard to come by if you
Right.
didn't live in New York City. When I first moved to Los Angeles, taxis, they
Non-existent.
went around. Yeah, I lived in the city in Chicago. I mean, I walked out, hailed a taxi, and I jumped in. But here, they didn't exist. Now there's Uber, there's Lyft. There are services available. You don't need to depend on children because you see, you don't have to cater to anyone's needs anymore. You can spend your money as you wish.
And Lois, as a child of a mother who I want a better life for, I only become proud of her when I see her solve a problem on her own. And that doesn't mean I don't want to be there for my mother, but when we get to the topics of mothers, I have plenty to share. I love my mother very much, and it is very hard to watch her be helpless. And that's her penchant is toward that. And then watching her be independent and solve a problem, there's nothing that makes me happier.
Listen, I'm going to end what I've been talking about today by saying living alone successfully is entirely up to you. It's what you make it to be. I give you as much as I can of my own life experiences, but in the end, whether it's me, your girlfriend, your mother, whomever, it's all up to you. I'm begging you, make this time in your life the best time ever.
And you'll walk away with a couple potato stories too, I'm sure.
And a couple of potato stories to share.
Lois, it's a pleasure for me just to be part of this and also learn by proxy.
It's my pleasure. I love having, and I'm thrilled to have your perspective, Jessica. You come from another generation, and your perspective is important to me because, again, we'll talk about this at a later time, and we did cover some of it in season 1. It's very important for us Silvers to have friends of much younger being, not just your kids, but people their age or even younger who are not your children. Have them be part of your life.
Wow.
So I appreciate having you on board this year.
Well, it's been a joy for me as well, and for very much similar reasons. And we want to thank you, our listener, and our wonderful participants in this show as well for being here and making us want to do this show for you. We love getting your questions. We can't answer them all, but just know that we're reading them, and it's helping us also formulate future episodes. So if you have a question, you follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and you find out what our future episodes are about, you can email us at silverandsensational@gmail.com. We do want your feedback. We do want your questions. It does help us, and it makes us feel real good. Lois, what can they do if they're watching us on YouTube right now?
Well, if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe, like, share with your friends. Hit the notification button. And if you are so inclined, put some comments down there. Would love to hear what you think. But I thank you so much for watching. And God bless all of you.
Lois, bless you, and thank you for involving me in this. And I can't wait till next week.
Me too. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching, everyone. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and the notify bell. And please share it with your friends. And if you feel like commenting, use that box, will you?